Hey there, legal warriors. In this video, I'm going to cover why it is the prosecutor does not know who you are and why it is you want to keep it that way. If you're interested in this side of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Lynnwood, Washington. My law firm has been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington state for more than 25 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. Now, as always, I'm just going to jump right into it. So many times we think if we're accused of a crime that the prosecutor is out to get us. And I want you to know that in almost all cases, the prosecutor doesn't even know your name until they pick up their court calendar or pick up their files and start to go through who is accused of what. And I know this because I was a prosecutor for 7 years. And the other thing you want to know, it's probably a good thing if the prosecutor doesn't know who you are. And what I don't mean is, hey, of course it's good if you never get charged because the prosecutor doesn't know who you are, but you don't want your name to stick out in the prosecutor's head, because if it does, it's usually going to be for a bad reason. So why is it that a prosecutor might know who you are, and therefore that might be a problem for your case? Well, number one could be because they've got someone that's really complaining to them, an alleged victim, or law enforcement, or somebody who is really putting pressure on them to make an example of you. It's pretty obvious that sometimes if an alleged victim is really mad, a theft victim, an assault victim, they could be really noisy to try to say, I want to do bad things. I want you to do bad things to the defendant, Mr. or Mrs. Prosecutor. That's obvious. But what's not so obvious is that can also happen from law enforcement. When I was a prosecutor at a non-felony court level, my officers from time to time might come to me and tell me, hey, I'm really upset about this case for X, Y, or Z. And while it's my decision as a prosecutor about how to handle a case, if the people that sort of I represent in a way, the police, right, the people that are bringing the crime, if they want some bad things done to the defendant, a higher level of punishment or accountability, that's something that I'm going to remember when I'm doing my prosecution duties. So, of course, we always want to be polite to law enforcement. We don't want to give a reason for them to want to go after us more than just what happened in the case. So those are two reasons I can think of, two types of people that might be complaining in the prosecutor's ear that can make it worse for us. What would be another situation where the prosecutor might know who we are, and therefore it might be worse for us? Well, we've been to that court before, right? Let's say you've been a defendant in that court before. I remember when I was a prosecutor, we had a particularly, frequent flyer defendant who was constantly accused of doing some type of domestic violence. And due to lots of reasons, the prior prosecutors were never, ever able to convict this person of anything. So I'd seen that name again and again come through. And so because that name kept coming through again, finally, I as a prosecutor might, and I did in this case, decide to put in quite a bit of extra effort to make sure that that particular defendant who kept coming in again and again, being arrested again and again, that they perhaps had to face the music for once because there's more effort that was chosen to be put in on a certain case than perhaps was in the past. And that can look different ways, but basically prosecutors, just like everybody, will choose how much energy and effort they put into any particular matter. And if they've seen your name again and again in court, then perhaps they might begin to single you out as, hey, I'm going to put the energy there. So that's not something that we want. Another situation where a prosecutor may really pay attention to your name is not that you've been in court before, but a bad prior criminal history, right? Hey, this defendant has 3 prior DUIs, therefore I'm going to put more attention on this particular case on the 4th DUI than I will on someone with their first offense, the grandma that blew a .07. So in that case, a prosecutor might remember your name because, hey, this is the person who has a worse record, therefore I'm going to try to do more bad things to the defendant. Another corollary to that is a really bad charge for the court that you're in. So most people that get charged with crimes are going to be charged with non-felonies, a gross misdemeanor or a misdemeanor. And the typical non-felony might be some type of assault or theft or DUI, and those may not stand out so much. But there are certain types of cases a prosecutor doesn't see very much. Perhaps some type of case that involves like assault with a sexual motivation. They're going to treat that one much worse and pay more attention to your name if that comes across their desk possibly. Also, some types of cyber harassment, some types of disclosing intimate image cases, which people might call revenge porn. Those type of things that are, quote, sexier, for lack of a better term, may make the prosecutor pay more attention to your name. So why is it? Why is it the prosecutor doesn't necessarily just know everybody on the calendar really personally? Well, it's because they have so much to do. Right, a prosecutor might be carrying 100, 200, 300 cases at a time, and there's only so many hours in the day. Many prosecutors end up working nights, they end up working weekends, they often don't get any extra pay for that, and so they don't really have the capacity to pay really close attention to each and every case, and that usually works in favor of the defendant. What you don't want to see happen is you don't want the prosecutor to be paying more attention to your case because of something your defense attorney does, right? Defense attorneys are just people, right? There's going to be those that try to get along and be effective without offending prosecutors, and some that their style is more offensive, right? I remember when I was a prosecutor, there's a particular defense attorney that would come in. I would make sure to pay real close attention to those cases because of how offensive and untasteful and how difficult and sort of insulting this particular defense attorney was, and that's not something you want out of your attorney. You don't want your attorney to give the prosecutor a reason to pay more attention to your case in a negative way than they might otherwise. So when is it a good time for the prosecutor to know who you are? Well, that's part of a mitigation package. So it could be a really good thing that the prosecutor knows who you are if the story is told by your defense, right? All the prosecutor hopefully sees when they get their case as a police report, right? They don't have someone knocking on the door saying do bad things and the police doing that. It's not a really out there report. It's just a standard report. But we can at times try to tell the story of who our client is. Maybe the client is someone that's 24 years old and is finishing up an advanced degree, and they're a 4-point student and they've never been in trouble, and here's where they volunteer for Boys and Girls Club and all these other things. Those all going to be part of telling the story of who the client is to the prosecutor, so there's more of a reason to see the human side of what happened and the human side of what may happen if there's a negative result in the case. Because remember, the prosecutor is making decisions about who they're going to try to hammer and who they can't try to hammer, either because it's inappropriate or because there's simply not enough hours in the day to treat everyone really negatively. So if your attorney starts asking you things that don't make a lot of sense, like how long have you been in the state, or do you have any pets or family, or how does your support system look like, or what do you do for hobbies, or any of these type of things, it's often because we're trying to develop some type of mitigation material. And sometimes the client is not the best one to tell us that, right? I love it if a parent comes along, if co-counsel mommy comes along with the client, because they're pretty proud of their kids, and sometimes we'll get a lot more good information that's mitigating talking to family members from somebody who is pretty humble and doesn't want to say good things about themselves. So the long story short is the prosecutor doesn't know who you are. And if they do, it's usually not a good thing. So don't think that, hey, they're out to get me. And maybe they may be out to get the defendant because of the case, but it's probably not because of who you are personally. And a good attorney with good strategy and good execution can hopefully turn things around and end up with the prosecutor thinking good things about you, not the bad things that we worry about or that we imagine. So I hope you found that useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. And more importantly, if you got a criminal matter in Washington State, feel free to reach out to my firm. If we get on board, we'll listen to what happened, we'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.